The Collector as a concept has always intrigued me. While the concept of a child with godlike powers has been explored in the past, the Owl House does a great job delving into the child aspect of this, as well as giving the Collector such a great dynamic with the other characters. But I'm not here to talk about that. Yapisha11, I hope I said that correctly, has already done so. I'm here to discuss the Collector's origin, their character, and who they actually are. The Collector comes from a group of celestial beings who we know as the Archivists, or the Collector's siblings. The Archivists, well, archive all forms of life. To preserve, to observe, we must amass. This is reflected in the Collector's habit as well, through the way he preserves the people of the Boiling Isles in their puppet forms and amasses them in the Archive House. Now, it is very clearly shown through multiple paintings in the Archive House that the Collector was different from the other Archivists, which I want to point out mimics Luz's character. The Archivists seem to have disliked the Collector and tricked them into playing hide-and-seek with the Titans, who I can only presume were able to withstand their power, as seen with King. Well, it turns out that the Collector actually had a great time with the Titans, but the Archivists were scared of the Titans' powers, and one by one, the Titans started to disappear. Eventually, there was only one Titan left, Monarch, which is the name I've given to Papa Titan. Monarch thought that the Collector was the one responsible for the Titans' disappearances, and hid King from them and trapped them, presumably sacrificing himself in the process. The Collector was then trapped for an unspecified amount of time, likely centuries, long enough that they were desperate enough to help the likes of Belos in exchange for their freedom. Speaking of Belos, it was sometime during the 1660s that he sought out the Collector, claiming that they knew how to make the portal back to the human realm. This was a lie, however, as when he gets the mirror that traps the Collector with the help of Luz and Lilith, he states that he just needs to live long enough to see this through, referring to his plan to eradicate all life in the demon realm. A deal is then made between the two, with Belos promising to free the Collector if they help him with his draining spell. That's it for the backstory, but there are some very notable details here. Firstly, the Collector and Luz's character overlap so well. They were both weirdos who were pushed away by their peers, and when they finally managed to find someone willing to accept them, they clung on, no matter how bad the idea seemed to be at the time. But moving on to the present. The first time we get an actual glimpse of a Collector is during Ida's flashback, but it has not yet been determined if this is our Collector. Personally, I think it is, as though they may seem way too sinister to be our Collector, keep in mind that they would still have been under Belos' influence, and Belos seemed to have a personal grudge against Ida for some reason. What do you all think? Also, be sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this video, as it would help me out a lot. Thank you! Now the first time we truly see our Collector is during Hollow Mind, when Hunter and Luz are in Belos' mind. The Collector cites a quiet, worrisome poem.
We'll play forever, me and you, when you paint the land in night bright hues!
Again, I won't go too in-depth about their character, as again, Yippee has already done so. But I want to say that this scene is the reason I was so excited about the Collector. They were just so happily violent. The last time I saw someone like this was Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, which should make it obvious as to why I was so excited. Anyway, after King got tricked into the ritual of the Titan Trappers, he gained a psychic connection to the Collector, where we see them kinda losing it as Belos starts to reveal his ultimate plan. Eventually, Belos does betray them, but they are then rescued by King, who frees them on the promise that he will teach them a new game. One thing I want to point out is that in watching and dreaming, we find out that the Archivists tricked the Collector into playing hide-and-seek with the Titan kids, and when the Collector meets King, the first thing they ask is if King likes hide-and-seek, just something I found interesting. Next, the Collector saves the Hexite gang from Belos, and then casually saves the entirety of the Boiling Isles with the flick of their finger. I don't know how to feel about the scene. On one hand, it's both hilarious and terrifying to see how powerful the Collector really is, but at the same time, this scene was kinda underwhelming. I mean, the entire plot of Season 2 was to stop the Day of Unity, and it just sorta happens. And on top of that, this is never brought up again, which I'm kind of disappointed with. Tell me how you feel, as I am genuinely interested in your thoughts. The Collector has their moment, and we end the season speculating on what they would do to the Boiling Isles. I'll end the present section here, as I assume most of you would have been watching this series before Season 3 started. I remember the theories of what the Collector would do, and reflecting back on them, wow, they were wild. I think one reason we all thought so is because the Collector up to this point had been so violent and unnervingly calm about it that we all thought they were like Belos, having the persona of an innocent child, but at heart an evil person. Boy, were we wrong. We first see the Collector in a flashback in For the Future, which shows him ecstatic at finally being free from his confines. They ask King how to play the Owl House when Lilith and freaking Helicopter Hootie arrive and attempt to save King, and promptly get turned into puppets. Ida also attempts to stop the Collector, but then gets taken over by the Owl Beast before she can do anything. The next time we see the Collector is when King and them are LARPing Luz's adventures. It is here that we start to see the more innocent side of the Collector, but then immediately get reminded of their power when they, without hesitation, turn Terra into a puppet. This scene changed my perspective of the Collector. I now thought of them as more of a spoilt child rather than a cruel villain, through the way they demanded Terra to be nice, and how they wanted the real Owl Beast to roleplay more immersively. Anyway, King and the Collector make their way back to the archive house, and here we start to see just how out of touch the Collector was with normal people. We also get the worst nickname ever.
I'm a Dahlia.
But also get the single greatest line ever spoken, so it cancels out.
Pizza! Bagels!
We then get some more examples of out of touch and pretty spoiled Collector, but then we also get to see a moment of vulnerability as they plead with King to let Francois watch over them, stating that they don't like to be alone. The Collector sleeps, which is honestly something I didn't expect him to have to do, but anyway. I haven't seen many people mention this, but the Collector happens to have spidey sense or something, as they are very clearly sleeping, but are able to sense Belos just before he possesses them. The Collector laughs at the fact that they aren't in danger, and Belos does what he does best, manipulation. Although King really didn't help.
And I think I know a more permanent solution.
We then end the episode with the Collector angrily looking at the Hexite gang as they do their signature move, a Thanos snap. This episode transforms the Collector from a megalomaniac to a severely spoiled child, to a child with abandonment issues. The Collector doesn't really do too much in this episode, but their character goes through a pretty wide arc, and it somehow works considering how fast-paced it was. Anywho, onto the finale. Watching and dreaming. We first see the Collector upset at Belos, since his plan to make the trio see the error of their ways failed. Is it just me, or does the Collector's mouth seem to be more animated than normal? Anyway, Belos does his thing, and the Collector continues their "it's just a prank bro" arc until they realize that the trio really do not enjoy games that put their lives at risk, causing the Collector to reveal that they just wanted someone who wouldn't lie to them. The Collector gives their backstory, and then goes on a little memory trip with Luz, who in the span of 6 minutes teaches the Collector how to treat others and how they can make true friends. But then, the Collector can hear the rise of Titan Belos, and goes up to him, and... "You stupid child!" Luz has her Anne Boonchoi moment, and the Collector is flabbergasted that they can't do anything. They also mention that the Archivists couldn't have taken her, confirming that they did indeed kill the Titans. The Collector seems to finally understand the concept of death, begging Ida and King to run away so that they don't go missing. But then, Luz comes back with even more glory, and the Collector, realizing that everybody in the archive house is in danger, goes into full-fledged Spider-Man mode as they prevent the archive house from collapsing. When all is said and done, the Collector collapses from exhaustion, and I love the detail that they are scared of the Hexite King, when just one episode earlier, they laughed at the thought of being in danger. What great character growth. In the end, the collector states that they had to return to the stars, and it is never explicitly mentioned whether the archivists were still around, but they most likely are, and I'm sure that the collector would like to have a few words with them. We fast forward a few years later, and it is shown that the collector and Luz are still good friends as they create a special meteor shower for Luz's birthday. And with that, the story of the collector comes to an end. While on paper it is clear that the collector's arc was very rushed, we all know why that's the reason. But the collector tells a story of abandonment, loneliness, and has a surprising number of parallels to Luz's character, such as the moment they found someone willing to be a true friend, they did everything they could to protect them, ignoring that they were risking their lives in the process. They also matured in the short time they were on screen, knowing that they had still so much to learn. I also love to think that they and King never brought up what King meant when he had a permanent solution to stop the Collector. Although I do wish we got to see a fight scene between King and the Collector. Anyway, that's all from me. See ya!